we covered the frankly embarrassingly cozy interview of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu conducted by Manosphere YouTubers the Nelk Boys. Here's a clip to jog your memory.
Why do they say Israel's like starving the people of Gaza?
Well, because we're trying to get the food in, and we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let them in?
When you think of the Nelk Boys, the first thing that probably comes to mind is viral pranks, outrageous parties, and the culture of full send. But behind the YouTube chaos, the group also built one of the most talked about influencer-led business empires of the past decade, with merch drops selling out in minutes and an alcohol brand that shook the industry. And yet, despite sky-high revenue numbers and cult-like fan loyalty, cracks began to appear. Lawsuits, controversies, shift in public perception, and accusations of over-commercialization all chipped away at what was once considered an unstoppable empire. So how did the Nelk Boys go from prank legends and million-dollar merch moguls to facing criticism and questions about whether their empire is sustainable? This is the rise and the reputation decline of the Nelk Boys e-commerce empire. The story begins in 2010, when Kyle Forgeard and Jesse Sebastiani started uploading prank and lifestyle videos under the Nelk brand. What set them apart wasn't just the pranks themselves, but the unapologetic energy. Unlike family-friendly YouTubers chasing ad dollars, the Nelk Boys leaned into chaos, partying, getting kicked out of places, pushing boundaries. This authenticity resonated deeply with young audiences. By the mid-2010s, Nelk had built a reputation as the kings of viral stunts. But there was a problem. YouTube demonetized their content. Their edgy brand wasn't advertiser-friendly, which meant traditional ad revenue streams were closed off. So they pivoted. If YouTube wouldn't pay them, they'd build their own economy.
When did merch come into play? Because it was such a big piece of your guys' success, right?
Yeah, I think after that we kind of just kept it going and kept the 3-a-week thing going. And
in 2018, the Nelk Boys launched Full Send merch, and it was an instant hit. Full Send wasn't just clothing. It became a cultural movement. Fans weren't just buying shirts, they were buying into an identity. Drop culture, made popular by brands like Supreme, became their playbook. By releasing limited quantities, they created urgency and exclusivity. Merch drops sold out within minutes, sometimes generating millions in revenue in a single day. At their peak, reports estimated that Full Send pulled in $50 million a year. Forums like Reddit and Twitter were filled with fans showing off their gear like trophies. For a group once cut off from YouTube monetization, this was a genius pivot. But success comes with attention. As the Full Send empire grew, critics started to question whether the Nelk Boys were over-commercializing their fanbase. By 2021, the Nelk Boys were ready for their next move. They launched Happy Dad, a hard seltzer brand. On the surface, this was a natural extension of their identity. After all, the Nelk Boys had become synonymous with partying. Why not create a product that embodied that lifestyle?
And we were all putting ideas in the group chat, and someone said Happy Dad. And like instantly,
yeah, everyone liked it.
Everyone just fucking loved it. We're like, Happy Dad, that's got like a ring to it.
The launch was massive. Happy Dad became a hot commodity, selling out in liquor stores across the US. Fans treated it like a collector's item. On eBay, cases were reselling for absurd markups. Industry insiders were impressed. This wasn't just another influencer cash grab. Happy Dad was competing with giants like White Claw and Truly. At one point, Happy Dad was stocked in over 10,000 retail locations. For a group of pranksters who started on YouTube, this was surreal. But as with Full Send, the success brought new challenges. Distribution issues, lawsuits, and questions about whether the hype could last began to swirl. As Nelk's empire expanded, so did the controversies. Some were tied to their content, others to their business practices. First, there were distribution and logistics problems with Happy Dad. Fans complained about shortages, delayed shipments, and inconsistent availability. While some of this could be chalked up to growing pains, it fueled speculation about whether the brand was built more on hype than infrastructure. Then came legal issues. Reports surfaced of trademark disputes and lawsuits tied to the alcohol brand and other ventures. Each headline chipped away at the perception of Nelk as savvy entrepreneurs. Meanwhile, on the merch side, critics accused fullsend of oversaturating the market. What started as exclusive drops began to feel endless. Once the aura of scarcity faded, resale value plummeted. On Reddit, once loyal fans started questioning whether they were being milked for cash. And then there was the issue of over-commercialization. Collaborations with celebrities, casinos, and betting platforms made some fans feel the Nelk Boys had strayed too far from their roots. What was once about living full send now looked more like cashing in at every opportunity. In the age of social media, reputation is currency, and for Nelk, the tide began to turn. Comment sections and forums that once celebrated every move began to fill with criticism. Words like sellouts started appearing more frequently. Fans complained that the group wasn't focused on content anymore, but purely on monetization. One pivotal moment came when former members and collaborators started speaking out. Disputes over money, management, and credit painted a picture of internal conflict. For fans who had bought into the brotherhood image of Nelk, this was jarring. And then, of course, there were the controversies outside of e-commerce. Clashes with law enforcement, accusations of promoting reckless behavior, and constant demonetization battles with YouTube. While these weren't directly tied to their businesses, they fueled a narrative that the Nelk empire was built on shaky ground. What makes the Nelk Boys story fascinating is how it mirrors the broader trend of influencers turning to business ventures. Jake Paul tried fashion labels, Logan Paul launched Prime Hydration with KSI, and countless TikTok stars have tried and failed to cash in with products. But the difference is scale. The Nelk Boys actually succeeded, at least for a time. Fullsend and Happy Dad generated tens of millions of dollars. They built retail distribution, established partnerships, and commanded a loyal fan base. And yet, their trajectory shows the pitfalls of scaling too fast. Hype can't last forever, and when the hype fades, all that's left is product quality and business fundamentals. For many critics, this is where Nelk stumbled. While exact figures are hard to confirm, industry insiders estimated fullsend's peak yearly revenue around $50 million and Happy Dad sales in the hundreds of millions of cans. But sales alone don't equal longevity. By 2023, resale markets for full-send merch had cooled dramatically. Once flipped hoodies that sold for double retail were now being listed below cost. Forums noted a drop in sell-out speed for merch drops. For Happy Dad, early hype gave way to tougher competition. White Claw, Truly, and Bud Light Seltzer still dominated shelves. Distribution expansion slowed, and lawsuits complicated operations. While Happy Dad still exists, the frenzy of its launch has faded. So what does the Nelk Boys e-commerce rise and decline really show us? First, it highlights the power of community. By building a loyal fan base through authentic, if chaotic, content, Nelk was able to monetize in ways that traditional media couldn't. Second, it shows the dangers of over-commercialization. Fans can forgive a lot, but they don't want to feel exploited. Once Nelk pushed too many products too fast, the aura of exclusivity cracked. And third, it's a reminder that hype-driven businesses need strong fundamentals. Without consistent supply chains, sustainable growth, and quality control, even the biggest influencer brands can fade. The Nelk Boys went from YouTube pranksters to building one of the most successful influencer-led e-commerce empires ever. Fullsend merch and Happy Dad Seltzer showed just how powerful an engaged audience can be. But success came with a cost. Lawsuits, oversaturation, shifting fan loyalty, and reputational controversies turned what was once an unstoppable force into a cautionary tale. The empire hasn't completely collapsed. Happy Dad still sells, and Fullsend still has its fans. But the decline in hype and the growing backlash show that even at the top of the influencer world, reputations can turn fast. For fans, it's the end of an era. For entrepreneurs, it's a lesson. And for the Nelk Boys, it's proof that living full send can take you to the top. But it doesn't guarantee you'll stay.
I know you're not following what I'm saying anyway, right? That's okay, that doesn't matter. The real question is this: is all this legal? Absolutely fucking not.